I never expected to be the guy telling a story like this. Not because there's any shame in it, I didn't do anything wrong, but because I honestly believed my life was solid. I never thought it could fall apart this fast, like glass hitting concrete, all within a few short weeks. My name is Ethan Collins. Just 2 months ago, I was living what most people would probably call a perfect life. I had a beautiful wife, Sophia. 2 great kids, Emma, who's 14, and Lucas, who's 11. I owned a successful marketing firm right in downtown Chicago, and we lived in a quiet suburb in a house we'd spent years fixing up and turning into our dream home. Sophia and I had been married for 16 years. 16 years of building something together. Morning kisses before work. Family vacations. Late-night talks and whispered promises when the house was quiet. Or at least, that's what I believed at the time. Everything changed on a Tuesday night. I remember the day clearly because I just wrapped up a huge deal with a new client. I was riding that rare high that comes from hard work finally paying off. On top of that, I was planning a surprise for Sophia, tickets to Aruba for our upcoming anniversary. She was supposed to be out of town, attending a 3-day marketing conference in Detroit, or so she had told me. The kids were spending the night at my sister's place, and for once, the house was quiet. I was sitting at the kitchen island, flipping through client files, enjoying the calm, when the doorbell rang. It was exactly 9:47 p.m. I know that because I checked my watch, confused about who would show up that late. When I opened the door, 2 police officers were standing there. Their faces were serious, the kind of serious that makes your stomach tighten before a single word is spoken. "Mr. Collins?" the taller officer asked. "Yes," I said, already feeling something sink inside me. "I'm Officer Bennett, and this is Officer Hayes," he continued. "May we come in?" "It's about your wife, Sophia." Time slowed down as they explained that Sophia had been taken to Northwestern Memorial Hospital. She had been discovered hurt in a hotel room in Chicago, following an incident involving another person. "That's not possible," I said, though even to me my voice sounded far away. "She's at a conference in Detroit." The officers exchanged a look. I would come to recognize that look all too well in the days that followed, a mix of pity and discomfort, the expression of people who know something devastating that you haven't caught up to yet. "Sir," Officer Bennett said gently, "we think it's best if you come with us to the hospital. The doctors can explain her condition, and there are some other matters we need to address." I grabbed my keys and wallet without really thinking. My hands were moving on autopilot while my mind raced. What hotel in Chicago? Why wasn't she in Detroit? Was she going to survive? The drive to the hospital felt unreal. Officer Bennett drove while I sat in the passenger seat, gripping my phone and trying to make sense of any of it. I called my sister and asked her to keep the kids overnight. I told her there had been an accident, but I didn't have details yet. Even saying the words felt wrong. When we pulled into the hospital parking lot, I noticed my hands were shaking. It wasn't exactly fear, it was adrenaline. The kind you feel when you know your life is about to change, even if you don't understand how yet. As we rode the elevator up to the 4th floor, I finally asked the question burning in my chest. "Do you know what happened to her?" Officer Bennett cleared his throat. "She was found in a room at the Lakefront Hotel. There was an altercation with a male companion." The words landed like a punch. Male companion. Not co-worker. Not friend. Companion. At the hospital, a doctor met me in a small consultation room. Her name was Dr. Coleman, a woman in her 50s with tired eyes and a calm, gentle voice. She explained that Sophia had suffered multiple bruises, a broken wrist, and a concussion. "She's stable," Dr. Coleman assured me. "But she's heavily sedated right now. The injuries are serious, but they're not life-threatening." I let out a breath I didn't realize I'd been holding. Relief washed over me, but it didn't last long. "What happened?" I asked. "Was it a robbery? Was she just in the wrong place at the wrong time?" That same look crossed her face, the pause, the hesitation. "Mr. Collins, the police will need to discuss the circumstances with you," she said. Detective Morgan is waiting outside. Detective Morgan was a stocky man with a close-cropped beard and sharp eyes that seemed to take everything in at once. He asked me to sit down, and that's when my world truly started to collapse. "Mr. Collins," he said, "your wife was found in a room at the Lakefront Hotel. She was registered there with a man named Nathan Brooks. Do you know him?" I shook my head slowly. "No. I don't think so. He's listed as an employee at Clark Marketing Group," the detective continued. "The same company where your wife works." My brain struggled to process the information. It felt like trying to run through deep water. "She told me she was at a conference in Detroit," I said. Detective Morgan nodded carefully. "According to hotel staff, your wife and Mr. Brooks have been regular guests here for several months. Usually on Tuesday and Thursday evenings." Each word hit harder than the last. Regular guests. Several months. Tuesday and Thursday nights, the same nights Sophia always had late meetings, networking events, or office happy hours. "What happened to her?" I finally asked, my voice tight. "From what we've gathered," he said, "she told Mr. Brooks she wanted to end their relationship. He became violent. A guest in the next room called security after hearing screaming and what sounded like furniture being thrown." I sat there, frozen, feeling the blood drain from my face. "Where is he now?" I asked. "He's in custody," the detective replied. "He's being charged with aggravated assault." He kept talking procedures, next steps, paperwork, but I barely heard a word. My mind was already replaying years of memories through a new lens. The late nights. The sudden work emergencies. The last-minute business trips. The lingerie I never saw her wear. The secretive texts. The distance that had grown between us, which I'd blamed on stress and busy schedules. I had been completely blind. "Can I see her?" I asked, cutting him off. He nodded. "She's in room 412. "But, Mr. Collins," he hesitated. "She doesn't know we've contacted you yet." When she briefly regained consciousness, she listed her sister as her emergency contact. That was another knife to the chest. Even lying in a hospital bed, she had tried to keep this from me. I walked down the hallway to room 412 feeling completely hollow, like my emotions had shut off just to keep me standing. When I pushed the door open, the sight inside nearly knocked the breath out of me. Sophia's face was badly swollen and bruised, her right eye sealed shut. Her left wrist was wrapped in a thick cast, and soft beeping sounds came from the monitors beside her bed. Tubes, wires, and hospital lights surrounded her. This woman, the stranger lying in that bed, was my wife of 16 years. She was the mother of my children. The person I had trusted more than anyone else in the world. I stood there for a long time, doing nothing but watching her chest rise and fall. Anger, betrayal, fear, and confusion all fought for space inside me. Part of me wanted to scream, to shake her awake and demand answers right then and there. Another part of me wanted to turn around, walk out, and never look back. But the strongest feeling of all was the need to understand how the life I thought we shared could have been built on such a massive lie. A nurse came in to check Sophia's vitals and jumped slightly when she noticed me standing there. "Are you family?" she asked. "I'm her husband," I said. The words felt foreign in my mouth. She offered a sympathetic smile. "She'll likely sleep through the night because of the medication. You might want to go home and come back in the morning." I nodded, but I already knew I couldn't go home. Not to a house where every room, every photo, every piece of furniture suddenly felt like part of an elaborate illusion. Instead, I walked across the street to a 24-hour diner and ordered a cup of coffee I barely touched. As the night dragged on, I made 3 decisions that would shape everything that came next. First, I would not fall apart. Not tonight. Not ever. Sophia had already taken enough from me. She wasn't taking my dignity too. Second, I would protect my children from as much pain as I could, while never lying to them. They deserved the truth, spoken carefully, with love, but not sugar-coated or hidden. Third, I would rebuild my life. Whether forgiveness found its way into my heart or not, I would come out of this stronger. By the time morning came and I returned to the hospital, the shock had faded. In its place was a cold, steady clarity. I wasn't there as a worried husband anymore. I was there as a man who needed answers. Sophia was awake when I stepped into her room. Her one good eye widened in surprise, then immediately filled with tears. "Ethan," she whispered, her voice rough. "I'm so sorry." I stayed at the foot of the bed, keeping my distance. "Sorry for which part, Sophia?" I asked calmly. "For cheating on me for months? For lying about where you were? Or for getting caught?" She flinched like I'd hit her. "Please, Ethan," she said. "It's not what you think." I let out a sharp laugh that surprised even me. "Really? Because I think you've been sleeping with your coworker, Nathan, while lying straight to my face. I think you betrayed our marriage, our family, and everything we built together. So tell me, what part did I misunderstand?" Tears streamed down her cheeks, cutting through the light makeup someone, probably her sister, had applied over her bruises. "I made a terrible mistake," she said. "I got caught up in something that never should have happened. But I love you and the kids more than anything. Nathan means nothing to me." "He meant enough for you to risk our entire life together," I replied, my voice steady even as rage burned inside me. She kept lying repeatedly, making up work trips and meetings, while I stayed home with Lucas. She reached for me with her uninjured hand, but I stepped back. "Ethan, please," she said. "I know I hurt you, but this isn't who I am. Nathan made me feel special. Desired. Things between us had gotten so routine, so predictable." "Stop," I cut her off, feeling sick to my stomach. "Don't you dare blame this on our marriage. If you were unhappy, you could have talked to me. We could have gone to counseling. You had 1,000 options before choosing to cheat." "He hurt me, Ethan," she whispered, gesturing weakly toward her injuries. "When I told him I was ending it, that I couldn't do this anymore, he lost control." "Doesn't that prove I was trying to fix things?" I looked at her, this woman I once believed I knew better than anyone else on earth. "No, Sophia," I said quietly. "It shows me you were trying to avoid the consequences. And only after everything spun out of your control." A nurse appeared in the doorway. "Everything okay in here?" I nodded tightly. "Yes. I'm leaving. My wife needs her rest." As I turned away, Sophia called out, panic filling her voice. "Ethan, please don't tell the kids. Please. Let me come home, and we can work through this." I stopped in the doorway but didn't turn around. "They deserve better than lies," I said. "So do I." The drive home was when everything finally hit me all at once. How was I supposed to tell Emma and Lucas that their mother had been living a double life? That the foundation of our family had been built on deception? My hands clenched the steering wheel so hard my knuckles turned white. When I pulled into the driveway, my sister Hannah was waiting. She'd brought the kids home but told them only that their mom had been in an accident. They rushed me with questions. "Is Mom okay? What happened? When can we see her?" I pulled them both into a tight hug, then asked Hannah if she could give us a few minutes alone. One look at my face was enough. She squeezed my shoulder and stepped outside without saying a word. I sat down with Emma and Lucas on the couch and took a deep breath before speaking. "Mom is in the hospital," I said carefully. "Physically, she's going to be okay. She has some injuries, a broken wrist, bruises, and a concussion, but she'll recover." Relief crossed their faces, but they could tell there was more. "There's something else you need to know," I continued, my heart breaking as I spoke. "And it's going to be hard to hear. The reason Mom is in the hospital is complicated." I swallowed. She wasn't where she said she would be. She was with another man. Someone from her work. They hadn't just crossed paths once or made a single bad decision. They'd been seeing each other in secret for a while, sneaking around behind my back. Emma broke down the moment it sank in. Her face twisted, and tears spilled freely down her cheeks. Lucas stood there looking lost at first, then something darker settled in. Confusion gave way to anger, and his young face hardened in a way no 11-year-olds ever should. "So you're saying she cheated on you?" he asked, his voice cracking as the words came out. I nodded and rested my hand on his shoulder. "Yes," I said quietly. "And when she told him she wanted to stop seeing him, he hurt her." Emma sniffed and looked up at me, her voice barely above a whisper. "So she was lying to all of us?" "All those nights she was gone," Lucas added. "All those trips. She was with him," Emma finished. "That's what it looks like," I said, choosing my words carefully, trying to hold myself together for their sake. "I hate her," Lucas blurted out suddenly, jumping to his feet. "I hate her for doing this to us." I gently pulled him back toward me. "Lucas, it's okay to feel angry," I said. "I'm angry too. But hate is a heavy thing to carry, and it can crush you if you let it. Your mom made some terrible choices, no doubt about that. But she's still your mother, and she still loves you both." Emma's eyes searched my face, red and swollen from crying. "Will you forgive her?" she asked. "Will everything go back to normal?" That question hit me harder than anything else that night. I could have lied. I could have told them everything would work out just fine. But I'd already decided this family had had enough lies. "I don't know what's going to happen between your mom and me," I said honestly. "But I do know two things for sure. None of this is your fault. Not even a little. And no matter what happens, I will always be here for you. Both of you. We're going to get through this together." Lucas wrapped his arms around me and buried his face in my chest. Emma joined us a second later, and the three of us sat there holding each other while they cried. I forced myself not to break down. I had to be their anchor, even if I felt like I was sinking. Later that night, after they finally fell asleep, Emma only after I let her borrow one of my old t-shirts to sleep in, and Lucas only after I promised he wouldn't have to see his mother again until he was ready, I found myself alone in my home office. I poured a glass of bourbon and sat there staring at it, watching the amber liquid catch the light. I thought about how easy it would be to numb everything, to let myself fall apart. But that wouldn't help my kids. And it sure as hell wouldn't help me. I poured the bourbon down the sink and made a decision instead. No more surprises. No more blindsides. I was done being in the dark. If I was ever going to move forward, I needed the full truth. The next morning, I called Daniel Foster, a private investigator a client had once recommended. I didn't dance around the subject. "I need to know everything about my wife's affair," I told him. "How long it's been going on, where they went, what they did, who knew. I need proof. Not guesses." Daniel didn't ask why. He didn't offer sympathy or empty words. He just said he'd need some basic information and a retainer, then asked when we could meet. 3 days later, while Sophia was still in the hospital, calling my phone nonstop and leaving tearful voicemails begging me to pick up, Daniel handed me his first report. The affair with Nathan Brooks hadn't lasted a few months, like I'd been told. It had been going on for 7. They met regularly at the Lakefront Hotel, but that wasn't all. They also spent time together at his apartment in Lincoln Park. They took weekend trips to Wisconsin and Michigan, carefully disguised as work conferences or girls' trips with Sophia's friends. The evidence was thorough and brutal. Credit card statements showed hotel charges. Restaurant receipts revealed intimate dinners. There were text logs with thousands of messages exchanged, timestamps, frequency, patterns, even if the content itself wasn't available. Flight records confirmed a weekend in New York, during which Sophia had told me she was attending a marketing retreat in Philadelphia. There were photos too. Sophia and Nathan walking into a hotel together. Holding hands in a park I didn't recognize. Kissing in his car inside the parking garage at her office. Every image felt like a blade to the chest, but I made myself look at all of them. This was the truth I'd refused to see for too long. "There's more," Daniel said carefully. "Do you want all of it?" I nodded, bracing myself. Based on interviews with hotel staff and some of your wife's co-workers, Brooks has a history, he explained. This wasn't his first relationship at work. He's known for targeting married women at companies where he's employed. Daniel told me Nathan had been at Clark Marketing just over a year, and even in that short time, there were rumors of at least one other affair before Sophia. It should have made me feel better, knowing she'd been caught by a practiced predator. Instead, it left me with more questions. Had she really been that easy to pull away from our marriage? Had 16 years meant so little? There's one more thing, Daniel said. The night your wife was injured, she wasn't ending the relationship. According to a bartender he interviewed, Sophia and Brooks had been arguing because Nathan had been seen with another woman, a new account executive who'd started at Clark just a month earlier. That truth hit me like a punch to the gut. Sophia hadn't been hurt trying to do the right thing. She'd been hurt during a fight over another woman. I thanked Daniel, paid him, and told him to keep digging. I wanted everything, every lie, every secret, every person who knew and kept quiet. That afternoon, Sophia's sister Grace showed up at my door without warning. I hadn't spoken to her, or anyone in Sophia's family, since all of this started. Ethan, we need to talk, she said, trying to push past me into the house. I stepped in her way. Whatever you have to say, you can say it here. Her eyes narrowed. Sophia is being discharged tomorrow. She needs to come home. She needs her family so she can heal physically and emotionally. This isn't her home anymore, I said calmly. Grace's face flushed red with anger. You can't be serious. After 16 years of marriage, you're throwing her away over one mistake. I let out a short, humorless laugh. One mistake? She carried on a 7-month affair, Grace. She lied to me and to our kids over and over again. She spun detailed stories just to hide what she was doing. That's not a single mistake. That's hundreds of conscious choices. People make bad decisions when they're unhappy, she shot back. Maybe if you'd paid more attention to her. Stop right there, I cut in, my voice dropping to a dangerous calm. Don't you dare try to put this on me. Sophia is a grown woman. She made her own decisions. She loves you, Ethan, Grace insisted. She made a terrible error in judgment, but she wants to fix this. Doesn't your marriage vow mean anything? For better or worse? Those vows also included fidelity, I said evenly. And honesty. And respect. All of which she threw away for 7 months. Grace's face shifted, concern replacing anger. What about the kids? They need their mother. They need truth, I replied. And they need stability. Sophia destroyed both. She opened her mouth to argue, so I continued. Yes, they absolutely need their mother. But I'm not going to force them to pretend everything's fine when it isn't. You've always been cold, Ethan, she snapped. Always logical, always controlled. Maybe that's why she went looking elsewhere, someone who could actually show emotion. The accusation stung, but I didn't let it show. You should go, Grace, I said calmly. And you can tell Sophia she can stay with you while we figure out the next steps. Legally. Her eyes widened. You're already talking to lawyers? I will be, I confirmed. And she should be too. After Grace left, I stayed on the porch for a long time, replaying her words in my head. Had I really been cold? Had I somehow pushed Sophia into someone else's arms? Doubt crept in, threatening the clarity I'd fought so hard to hold on to. Then I remembered the photographs. The receipts. The lies stacked on top of lies. And my resolve hardened again. This wasn't about my failures as a husband. This was about Sophia's choices and the consequences that came with them. The next day, I got a call from Sophia's boss, Benjamin Clark himself. I'd met him a handful of times at company events. Always professional. Always distant. Ethan, I wanted to reach out personally about this terrible situation, he said, his tone somber. First and foremost, I want to express my sincere regret for what you're going through. I appreciate that, Benjamin, I said, already wondering where this was headed. I also want you to know that Nathan Brooks has been terminated, effective immediately, he continued. We have a strict policy against workplace relationships, especially between managers and their subordinates, and he violated that policy multiple times. That stopped me cold. Nathan was Sophia's manager? There was a brief pause. Yes. For the past year. He was the senior account director overseeing her team. You didn't know? Another piece of the puzzle clicked into place. All the complaints Sophia had made about her overbearing boss. The late nights she claimed were mandatory. The pressure she said came from an unreasonable superior. She hadn't been talking about her boss. She'd been talking about her lover. We're also offering Sophia a generous severance package, Benjamin added. While her involvement also violates company policy, we recognize there was a power imbalance, and we want to handle this with appropriate sensitivity. I didn't need him to spell it out. They were worried about lawsuits. About bad press. About the whole thing blowing up publicly. I understand, I said. And I appreciate the call. After I hung up, I called my attorney, Jonathan Hayes. I'd worked with Sam for years on business matters, but never on anything this personal. He listened carefully, only interrupting now and then to clarify a detail. You have several options, he said once I finished. None of them particularly pleasant. I'm not looking for pleasant, I told him. I'm looking for fair. Then the first step is protecting your finances, he replied. Freeze or divide joint accounts. Cancel credit cards or lower limits. Document all assets and debts immediately. I'd already started. I'd moved half of our joint savings into a separate account in my name and kept detailed records of every transaction. Next, Sam continued, you need to decide whether you want a divorce or a legal separation. Based on what you've told me, you have grounds for an at-fault divorce in Illinois. That could affect asset division and support. What about the kids? I asked. I want primary custody. His expression turned cautious. That's more complicated. Courts usually favor joint custody unless there's clear evidence a parent is unfit. Infidelity alone doesn't automatically meet that standard. I nodded, absorbing a truth I didn't like. What about Clark Marketing? I asked. Do I have any recourse? One of their senior employees was having an affair with his married subordinate. Possibly, Sam said. Sexual harassment laws could apply, especially given the power dynamic. But that would be Sophia's claim, not yours. Unless? I pressed. Unless you could prove their negligence directly harmed you, he explained. For example, if they knew about the relationship and allowed it to continue. I thought about what Daniel had uncovered, Nathan's pattern of workplace affairs, the rumors that seemed to follow him. I'll think about it, I said. For now, I want to focus on protecting my position with the kids. By the time Sophia was released from the hospital, I had a temporary plan in place. I took a leave of absence from work so I could be there for my children, no matter what came next. I'd already changed the locks on the house. I'd also contacted the kids' school, explained the situation, and asked them to keep an eye out for any changes in behavior. I told them to call me directly if anything seemed off. Sophia went to stay with Grace, just like I'd suggested. The day after she was discharged from the hospital, she came by the house while the kids were still at school. Her face was bruised but healing, and her wrist was wrapped in a cast. I met her on the porch and didn't invite her inside. I need to get some of my things, she said quietly. I've already packed a suitcase for you, I replied, nodding toward the large bag sitting by the door. Clothes and personal items. Anything else you need, you can request through my attorney. Sam Hayes. Her face collapsed. Ethan, please. Can't we at least talk? I made a terrible mistake, but I love you. I love our family. We can get through this. There is no we anymore, Sophia, I said, surprised by how steady my voice felt. You destroyed that over 7 months of lying and cheating. People survive affairs, she argued. Marriages come back from this all the time. Some do, I admitted. But I don't think ours will. And it's not just the affair. It's the scale of the lies. You were sleeping with your boss while complaining to me about how awful he was. You took trips with him while I stayed home raising our kids. And you weren't even trying to end it. She froze. You were fighting because he was cheating on you, I continued. Her eyes widened. How do you? I know everything, I cut in. Every hotel. Every weekend trip. Every lie you told me and the kids. And I know you only got caught because Nathan started seeing someone else, and you confronted him over it. Tears streamed down her face. That's not true. I was ending it. I told him it was over. Stop lying, I said, my voice finally cracking. Even now, with proof staring you in the face, you're still lying. She shifted tactics. The kids. They need me. You can't keep me from my children. I'm not, I said calmly. Lucas doesn't want to see you right now. Emma is hurt and confused. When they're ready, we'll arrange visits. But it'll be on their terms, not yours. She stared at me, her expression hardening. You've turned them against me. No, I replied. You did that yourself when you decided your affair mattered more than your family's trust. Before she could respond, a car pulled into the driveway. Nathan Brooks stepped out. The sight of him made my blood run cold. This was the man who'd been sleeping with my wife. The man who'd touched her, kissed her, shared moments that should have belonged to me. And this was also the man who'd beaten her badly enough to put her in the hospital. What the hell is he doing here? I demanded, stepping instinctively between them. I asked him to come, Sophia admitted. I thought if we both talked to you, explained things. Explained what? I shot back. What could he possibly say that changes anything? Nathan approached slowly, his hands raised like he was trying to calm an animal. Mr. Collins, I know you have every reason to hate me. You're damn right I do, I snapped. You slept with my wife for 7 months, lied to her about other women, and then beat her when she confronted you. Give me one good reason why I shouldn't put you in the hospital right now. He flinched. It wasn't like that. I never meant to hurt her. Things just escalated. Escalated, I repeated flatly. That's your excuse for breaking her wrist and giving her a concussion? Ethan, please, Sophia said quickly. We're just trying to make things right. I looked at the two of them, and suddenly it clicked. You're back together, I said. After everything. After he put you in the hospital. You took him back. Sophia said nothing. She didn't have to. I laughed, a sharp, bitter sound that surprised all of us. Unbelievable. You know what? You deserve each other. Two liars playing games with other people's lives. Nathan stepped forward again. I love Sophia. What we did was wrong, the affair, all of it, but we want to move forward honestly now. Honestly? I repeated. You wouldn't recognize honesty if it slapped you in the face. Which, by the way, is exactly what I'm restraining myself from doing right now. His expression darkened. He stepped closer, shoulders tightening. You think you're better than me? You, with your perfect life and your moral high ground? You have no idea what Sophia and I share. Something inside me snapped. In the heat of the moment, I struck him, and he fell to the ground. The pain in my hand barely registered compared to the relief of seeing him sprawled there. Get off my property, I said, my voice deadly calm. Both of you. Nathan staggered to his feet, clutching his jaw. For a second, I thought he might swing back, but Sophia grabbed his arm. Let's go, Nathan. This isn't helping. I turned to her. I'm still the mother of your children, she said, defiance creeping into her voice. You can't erase me from their lives. I never said I would, I replied. But understand this little reunion you've staged changes nothing. I'm still filing for divorce. I'm still seeking primary custody. And I'm still going to make sure everyone knows exactly who you both are. Then I went inside and closed the door. Through the front window, I watched Sophia grab the suitcase, snap something angrily at Nathan, and climb into his car. They pulled away, leaving me standing in a house that had once been full of a family I believed was happy. That evening, when Emma and Lucas came home from their after-school activities, I sat them down again. "Your mom stopped by today to pick up some of her things," I told them. "She's staying with Aunt Grace for now." "Did she ask about us?" Emma asked softly. "She did," I said. "She misses you both a lot and wants to see you when you're ready." Lucas's jaw tightened. "I'm not ready. I don't know if I ever will be." I put my arm around his shoulders. "That's okay, buddy. No one is going to force you to see her before you're ready." "Is she coming back home?" Emma asked. I took a slow breath. "No, sweetheart. Your mom and I are getting a divorce. That means we won't be married anymore, and we won't live together." Emma's eyes filled with tears, but she nodded, like she'd already been bracing herself for that answer. Lucas leaned into me, his body stiff with tension. "There's something else you need to know," I continued. "I think you deserve the truth. The man your mom was seeing, Nathan, he was here today too." "The guy who hurt her?" Lucas asked sharply. "Why would she be with him after what he did?" I chose my words carefully. Sometimes adults make complicated choices that don't make sense, even to the people around them. Your mom and Nathan have decided to continue seeing each other. "That's messed up," Lucas said flatly. "It is what it is," I replied. "But here's what I want you both to remember. None of this is your fault. Not even a little. And nothing that's happening changes how much your mom and I love you." "But everything is changing," Emma said, tears finally spilling over. "Our whole family is broken." I pulled her into my chest. "Some things are changing, yes. But my love for you isn't. And my commitment to being the best dad I can be isn't either. We're still a family, we're just going to look different than we did before." I held on to both of them as they tried to process this new reality, wondering how we'd ended up here and what the road ahead was going to look like. The next few weeks blurred together, meetings with lawyers, therapy appointments for the kids, and my attempts to keep life feeling as normal as possible. Sophia made several attempts to see the children. Lucas refused every time. Emma was hesitant, eventually agreeing to one supervised lunch at a restaurant. I didn't attend. Instead, I asked my sister Hannah to go with her. When they got back, Emma was quiet and withdrawn. "How did it go?" I asked gently after Hannah left. She shrugged, picking at a loose thread on her sweater. "Weird. Mom cried a lot," she continued. "She kept saying how much she missed us. And she brought Nathan, even though Aunt Hannah told her not to." My jaw clenched. "Nathan was there?" "He mostly stayed in the car," Emma said. "But he came in at the end to say hi." Her face tightened. "He tried to act nice. Told me how much Mom talks about me and Lucas. I didn't like it." I took a slow breath, forcing my anger down. "I'm sorry that happened, Emma. It won't happen again. Mom said she's going to fight for us," Emma added quietly. "She said you're turning us against her, and she's not going to let you keep us from her." The words sent a chill through me, not because I was afraid of losing custody. I trusted my attorney and the evidence we had. What scared me was that Sophia was willing to drag the kids through a brutal legal fight instead of respecting their feelings. "Your mom loves you," I said carefully. "She's hurting right now. And when people are hurting, they sometimes say things they shouldn't." Emma looked up at me, her eyes far older than 14. "I think she meant it, Dad." The very next day, I was served legal papers. Sophia was contesting my request for primary custody and filing for it herself. She claimed I was alienating the children and creating a hostile environment. She was also seeking half of my business assets, arguing that she had contributed significantly to my success through her support over the years. Sam called shortly after the paperwork arrived. "This is just the opening salvo," he said. "She doesn't have a strong case for primary custody, especially with the evidence of the affair and her continued relationship with the man who assaulted her. As for your business, we can show it was established before the marriage and maintained separately." "What about the alienation claim?" I asked. "That's standard in cases like this," Sam explained. "But the kids are old enough that the court will consider their preferences, especially Lucas. The fact that you enrolled them in therapy and are following professional guidance works in your favor." Despite his reassurance, the legal fight turned uglier by the week. Sophia's attorney, a sharp, aggressive woman named Allison Price, portrayed me as an emotionally distant workaholic who had pushed Sophia into someone else's arms. She submitted statements from Sophia's friends and family, all describing my supposed coldness and neglect. Sam fired back with statements from my friends, co-workers, and even the kids' teachers, all attesting to my involvement in their lives and my reputation as a devoted father. We also submitted the private investigator's report, complete with photos and a detailed timeline of Sophia's lies. The hardest moment came when Lucas and Emma were interviewed by a court-appointed guardian ad litem, whose job was to represent their best interests. Both kids spoke honestly about Lucas's anger, Emma's confusion, and the hurt they were carrying. They both said they wanted to live primarily with me, though Emma added that she'd be willing to see her mother regularly, as long as certain boundaries were respected. As the legal battle dragged on, eating up every ounce of time and emotional energy I had, I struggled to stay strong for my kids like I promised. Late at night, after Emma and Lucas had finally fallen asleep, I would sit alone in my office, staring at old family photos, thinking about how something that had once felt so perfect could fall apart so completely. It was during one of those long, quiet nights that my phone rang with an unknown number. "Mr. Collins? This is Megan Carter. I used to work with your wife at Clark Marketing." I paused. The name didn't ring a bell. "How can I help you, Ms. Carter?" She took a breath. "Actually, I think I can help you. I left Clark 6 months ago, but I was there when Nathan Brooks was hired. And there's something you should know." I leaned forward, curious. "Go on." Megan explained that Nathan had been fired from his previous job for inappropriate relationships with married co-workers. Clark Marketing had known this when they hired him. In fact, Benjamin Clark himself had instructed HR to ignore the red flags because Nathan was bringing in a major pharmaceutical client. That was exactly the kind of negligence Sam had mentioned could give us some leverage. "Would you be willing to make a formal statement for court?" I asked. After a pause, she said, "That's why I'm calling. I've been following your case. What happened to your family wasn't right, and Clark Marketing isn't exactly clean in this either." The next day, I sent Megan's statement to Sam, who immediately recognized its significance. "This changes everything," he said. "We now have proof that Clark Marketing knowingly employed someone with a history of workplace sexual misconduct, putting your wife and other employees at risk. We can add the company to your lawsuit, claiming their negligence contributed to the destruction of your marriage." It felt like a turning point. Once Clark Marketing was officially named in the suit, their lawyers called right away, eager to negotiate. They offered a substantial settlement in exchange for a non-disclosure agreement and removal of the company from the case. After thinking it through and talking it over with Sam, I accepted. Not for the money, but for the validation. Their willingness to pay was an admission that they had failed, that their negligence had played a role in tearing my family apart. The news reached Sophia and Nathan quickly. The next day, Sophia called, her voice trembling. "How could you do this?" she demanded. "Clark Marketing is firing Nathan because of your lawsuit," I said calmly. "They see him as a liability now. Actions have consequences, his, yours, and the company's. You're systematically destroying everything in my life," she yelled. "First our marriage, then my relationship with the kids, now my career in Nathan's." I couldn't help it, I laughed, bitter and incredulous. "Sophia, listen to yourself. You destroyed our marriage with your affair. You broke your bond with the kids by betraying their trust. And you put your career at risk by sleeping with your boss. None of that was my doing. You never loved me, she spat. Not really. If you had, you would have fought for our marriage instead of throwing it away, I said evenly. I loved you more than you'll ever know. I loved the woman I thought you were, but that person doesn't exist anymore, and I respect myself too much to fight for a lie. After we hung up, I felt an odd sense of closure. Sophia's refusal to take responsibility made it clear that moving forward without her was the right choice. The custody battle wrapped up faster than I expected. With all the evidence and the kids' clear preferences, Sophia's attorney finally advised her to accept joint custody, with primary physical custody going to me. She would have the children every other weekend, one dinner per week, and extra time during school holidays. On the day the divorce was finalized, I sat in the courtroom as Sophia signed the papers, her face a blank mask of resignation. Nathan wasn't there, their relationship had ended soon after he lost his job. Predictable, really. As we left the courthouse, Sophia approached me one last time. I know you won't believe me, but I'm sorry, Ethan. For all of it. I looked at her, at the woman who had once been the center of my world, feeling a mix of anger, sadness, and exhaustion. I believe you're sorry it ended this way, I said quietly, but I'm not sure you're sorry for the choices that got us here. She didn't argue. Perhaps that was the most honest thing she'd done in months. What will you tell the kids? She asked. The truth, I said. That our marriage is over, but not our commitment to them. That we both love them, no matter what. Even if we couldn't make our marriage work. She nodded, tears in her eyes. I do love them, Ethan. More than anything. Then show them, I said simply. Not with words, or tears, or dramatic gestures, but with consistency, honesty, and respect for their feelings. In the weeks that followed, Sophia seemed to spiral. Without Nathan, without her job, and with limited access to the kids, she began drinking heavily. She even showed up for visits clearly intoxicated, forcing me to turn her away. About 2 months after the divorce, I got a tense call from Grace. Ethan, I'm worried about Sophia, she said, her voice tight. She's been drinking a lot, Grace said, her voice tight, almost breaking. She keeps talking about how she's ruined everything, how she has nothing left to live for. I felt a deep worry. Has she shown any signs of self-harm? I asked carefully. Not exactly, but she's in a dark place, Ethan. She needs help, professional help. I ran a hand over my face. I'll call her therapist. Maybe they can recommend some kind of intervention, inpatient treatment if necessary. Grace's voice grew sharper. No, Ethan. She needs more than a therapist. She needs family. She needs to know she hasn't lost everything. I shook my head slowly, my throat tight. I can't give her that, Grace. I can't undo the divorce. I can't pretend her affair didn't happen. You don't have to take her back to show compassion, she snapped, the edge in her voice cutting deep. But if something happens to her, if she hurts herself, how will you explain that to the kids? Her words hit me like a punch. I clenched my jaw. Don't put that on me. Sophia is an adult. She made her choices. I'll contact her therapist, but that's all I can do. That's all anyone can do. I did call Dr. Harper, Sophia's therapist, explaining the situation. He thanked me and promised to follow up. I told myself that would be the end of it, that Sophia would get the help she needed and maybe, eventually, find some path forward. 3 days later, at 2:17 a.m., the doorbell rang. I stumbled down the stairs, still half asleep, my mind foggy. 2 police officers stood on the porch. My heart sank instantly, that cold dread settling deep in my chest. It felt hauntingly familiar, like déjà vu from the night everything had fallen apart. Mr. Collins, the female officer asked. Yes, I said, my voice tight. I already knew something terrible had happened. I'm Officer Rivera, and this is Officer Kim. May we come in? It's about your ex-wife, Sophia Collins. I led them inside, grateful the kids were asleep upstairs. What's happened? I asked, bracing myself. Officer Rivera's expression was serious, but gentle. "I'm very sorry, sir. Ms. Collins was involved in a single-vehicle accident tonight. Her car went off the road on Lakeshore Drive and struck a concrete barrier." My throat tightened. "Is she okay?" My voice cracked despite myself. "She did not survive, sir," Officer Rivera said softly. "Paramedics pronounced her dead at the scene." I sank heavily onto the couch, the weight of it hitting me like a freight train. I'd never, ever wished her dead, not with everything she'd done, not with the betrayal, the pain, the lies. And yet here it was. Officer Kim added quietly, "Preliminary reports indicate she had consumed alcohol, above the legal driving limit." "Any other cars involved?" I asked, trying to process what I was hearing. "No, sir. She was alone. Traveling at a high rate of speed when she lost control." They went on, giving me the official procedures, offering support, asking if I had someone to notify next of kin. But I barely heard them. My thoughts were elsewhere: Emma, Lucas, how I would tell them that their mother was gone forever, how I would shield them while helping them understand the finality of it all. After they left, I sat in the dark living room, unmoving, swallowed by a storm of emotions I couldn't untangle: grief, shock, anger, guilt, and an aching sadness for what could have been. The next morning, before the kids woke, Grace called. Her voice was trembling, almost unrecognizable. "Ethan, they found a note in her apartment. The police gave it to me. I think you should see it. It's addressed to you and the kids." I drove to Grace's house immediately. She handed me the envelope without looking at me. Inside was a single sheet of paper, Sophia's handwriting uneven and shaky, the marks of someone who had written while drunk, unraveling. "Ethan, Emma, and Lucas," it began. "I know words can never undo what I've done or erase the pain I've caused. I've tried to move forward, to rebuild something from the ruins of what I destroyed, but the weight of my mistakes is too heavy. Ethan, you were right. Our marriage wasn't perfect, but it was real, and it was worth fighting for. I threw it all away for something empty and destructive. Nathan never loved me. I see that now. Even if he had, it wouldn't have justified what I did to you and the kids. You deserved better than my lies and betrayal. Emma and Lucas, my beautiful children, I am sorry. You deserved a mother who put you first, who protected you instead of hurting you. My failures as a wife don't change my love for you. That love has always been real, even when my actions weren't. I don't expect forgiveness. I may not even deserve it. But I want you to know I understand now, too late, what I threw away. The emptiness I feel isn't for a lost lover or job. It's for the only things that ever truly mattered: my family, my integrity, your trust. I am sorry for everything." I read the note twice, then folded it carefully, sliding it back into the envelope. Her words were a confession, an apology, and a goodbye all at once. They didn't undo anything, but they offered a clarity Sophia had never shown in life. "Did you know she was this desperate?" Grace asked, her voice hollow. I shook my head. I knew she was struggling, but I didn't realize how deep it went. "Could we have done more?" she asked quietly, her voice heavy with doubt. "I don't know," I admitted. "Maybe. Or maybe the path was already set in motion by choices no one could undo." We sat in silence, bound only by our connection to a woman who was now gone. "How will you tell the kids?" Grace asked finally. I took a deep, steadying breath. "Honestly." Gently. But honestly. Because telling Emma and Lucas that their mother was gone, that was the hardest thing I had ever done. Their reactions were raw, unique to each of them, and each one tore at me in ways I couldn't prepare for. Emma crumpled into tears, her body shaking as sobs racked her small frame. Lucas, on the other hand, went completely silent, his expression frozen, a mix of shock, confusion, and disbelief etched across his face. Did she do it on purpose?" Emma asked between sobs, her voice barely audible. I took a deep breath, choosing my words carefully. "The police think it was an accident," I said gently, "a result of her drinking. But she left a note, and it shows that she was in a very dark place emotionally. Can we read it? Lucas's voice cracked, the first words he'd spoken since I had broken the news. Yes, I said. When you're ready. It's for you as much as it was for me. The next few days blurred together, funeral arrangements, calls of condolence, and trying to hold myself together while helping my kids navigate their grief. In their eyes, Sophia had transformed from the mother who had betrayed their trust into a tragic figure, a woman whose mistakes had led to her own destruction. At the funeral, I stood with Emma and Lucas, accepting condolences from friends, family, and colleagues who had never known the full story. Nathan Brooks did not attend, a small mercy I silently appreciated. As the final prayers were said at her grave, I felt Emma slip her small hand into mine. "Dad," she whispered, her voice trembling. "Are you okay?" I asked, looking down at her. Even in the midst of her grief, she worried about me. "I'm thinking about you and Lucas," she said firmly. "But, you lost someone too." Her words struck me like a wave I hadn't been ready for. She was right. I had lost the woman I married, the mother of my children, the life we had planned together. And even if the way it ended was painful and complicated, it was still a loss. Lucas, overhearing our quiet exchange, shuffled closer. Do you really think she meant what she wrote in the note? That she was sorry?" I pulled him close, resting my hand on his shoulder. "I do. I think in her final days, she saw things clearly for the first time in a long while." "I wish she had seen them sooner," he said quietly, his voice breaking. "Me too, buddy," I murmured. "Me too." In the months that followed, we slowly found a new rhythm to our lives, one shaped by loss but not defined by it. Emma and Lucas and I attended grief counseling, both individually and together as a family. We talked about Sophia often, remembering the happy moments while confronting the painful reality of how it all ended. One evening, about 6 months after the funeral, I found Emma sitting on the back porch, scrolling through old family photos on her phone. "You know what's weird?" she said softly as I sat beside her. "I'm starting to forget what her voice sounded like." I nodded, a lump in my throat. "That happens. But you'll never forget who she was to you, the good parts, the memories, even the hard ones." "Do you think she ever found peace in the end?" she asked, her voice small. "I hope so," I said carefully. Her note, it showed clarity, if not peace. Sometimes understanding our mistakes is the closest we can get to forgiving ourselves. Emma rested her head on my shoulder. "I miss who she used to be, before all this." "Me too," I admitted. "But I'm grateful for what we still have, each other." We sat there in silence, watching the sun dip behind the trees, the sky painted in oranges and pinks, and I reflected on everything that had brought us to this point. Sophia's betrayal had shattered our family, and her death had complicated our healing. But through the pain, we discovered resilience, honesty, and a deeper understanding of the fragility of human connection. Her affair had broken our trust, and I had been asked by many to forgive her. But my journey was never about forgiveness. It was about truth, protecting my children, and finding a way forward with dignity. In the end, Sophia faced the consequences of her choices in the most tragic way possible. And while I would never have wished that fate on her, I had learned some truths that could not be undone, some fractures can't be mended, some trust can't be rebuilt, and some choices change the course of lives forever. But I also learned that even after profound loss, even after betrayal and heartbreak, life continues. And if you hold on to courage, honesty, and love, so can we.